What's up, y'all? We're gonna get into the recap today. So to start off the morning, we'll look into my kind of outlook on today's, pre-market structure and how I got my bias today. I know I should probably be going over that a little bit more because that's honestly one of the most important things is knowing the next draw on liquidity, um, coming into the morning. You want to find the draw on liquidity early. So coming into the morning, actually, I actually said that we had an SMT here at Asia here, but it looks like it got barely swept on NQ. We had a pretty decent SMT intact anyways. Anyways, so coming into the morning, I'm trying to figure out a bias. I want to see where's the last sponsored move? Where are we expanding from? Like, where are we coming from? And where is the next objective? So, in order to understand where the next objective is going to be, we have to understand where are we coming from and is it valid to continue? So, come into the morning, I seen this big ass leg. I wasn't really too concerned with it just due to the sheer distance away. We were already 200 points away starting off. So I wasn't I mean, we were 200 points away from the next draw lower, so this led me to kind of make it so the first thing that I see, so if it's a 50-50 flip, like if it could be bearish or bullish, I want to look for just those tiny little things that can give me the next clue to maybe where it's going to go or what the trend is going to be. So coming into the morning, I always like to look at the pre-market draws. What did overnight session do, in order to gauge where we're at in the move. So if Asia and London are both open and every session liquidity is open, then you most likely can expect it to trade into them as long as it's with the trend. So in this case, we actually swept out Asia. We left London. My main thing here was the SMT here. We had an SMT sweeping out Asia. We actually didn't have the quite the same move. Really, it's not significant the SMT here, but it's more the fact that we close Asia session, we sweep Asia, and then we expand lower. So we swept out Asia here, and then following that, we use that liquidity to actually expand lower. So that's going to be the first clue, that we're actually going somewhere. It's going to be the first, building block of how we're going to understand where the market's going to go. So we sweep Asia, we expand lower, we create a high time frame gap, and that's so significant because we have absolutely nothing else to work with. We don't have a 4 hour, and we don't have. Let me play that back. And we don't have a 1 hour on this leg either. Literally, the only PD array we have that we're currently respecting is this 1 hour gap, this 1 hour bearish gap. Um, and so pre-market, we're already kind of sitting inside that gap, around 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern. Let me turn this indicator off. So yeah, boom. We are overnight sweeping a high, and then we expand off of it, and then we create a high time frame gap. So that's all I need to build a bias is where are we delivering from? That is the key, is where are we delivering from, and is the move sponsored? And what I mean by sponsored is PB Blake taught me this. It's basically what I just said. It's like, are we delivering from liquidity and are we expanding from there? It's like, are we actually moving off of the liquidity or is it just noise? So here we actually do have expansion. We're respecting it. So from there, I'm kind of leaning lower, starting off the morning. Market opens here. So market opens, we get a bit of chop. We actually miss the 1 hour by a hair, and we start moving lower. And from here, I'm like, okay, yeah, a short would be nice. However, we have no 5 minute gap, no 5 minute gap on the leg. Um, and we end up going mitigating EQ perfectly of this leg. This is exactly what you would want to see if we had a gap to trade out of. You'd want to see it mitigate the range. You want to see it mitigate EQ most of the time. It's not required, but it's nice. And then we actually get a really clean 3 minute inversion setup, just without the 5 minute gap, which really sucked. I was looking for this trade all morning, and we ended up just closing every 5 minute gap. And then we print the perfect setup lower. We hit the draws lower. There was some draws here. I'm not going to go back and mark them out, but This whole time we're opening 5 minutes, boom, 1 5 minute, 2 5 minute, 3 5 minute, not a single retracement. Not a single retracement. This whole leg is 300 points. Okay, so now, knowing that I'm probably not going to get the short that I want, we've ran through 3 draws on liquidity. ES actually, ES hadn't hit any of it. So we have a massive SMT we have a massive bullish SMT. So eventually you can expect us to retrace. Even if we're bearish, we need to retrace this leg, dude. Like it's actually kind of comical how large this leg is with no retracement, but it would have been a pretty clean move. We have EQ resting within this 15 minute. So yeah, from here, I'm kind of throwing away the short idea from my head. It's unrealistic for us to retrace all the way back up here and then continue even lower. It's hard to ask for, but it's a lot easier to bet that we will retrace to it. This is also known as the PB Mech model. He teaches um, trading into internal range liquidity, trading into unfilled gaps as you're drawing liquidity. It's actually pretty nice. I love trading into an unfilled gap. It's a really nice draw. And so here we actually had a pretty clean mech model. So overall, this was the actual trade that I ended up taking. So overall, we dumped 300 points. We have so many unfilled gaps on this leg. This needs to get retraced eventually. And so I'm willing to bet that once we sweep out, so we had about like 2 or 3 other lows that aren't marked out, and then we also sweep London low. We have an SMT at every single one of these lows. ES didn't sweep any of it. NQ is just manipulating. And not to mention, we have 10 a.m. PO3 manipulating lower. As you can see, the open of 10 a.m., it didn't manipulate higher into anything to print us lower. So theory is that even if we're bearish, we should be manipulating lower. And I'm willing to bet that this is the bottom of the manipulation. So boom. SMT, massive SMT, 10 a.m. power 3. We have an unfilled 15-minute above. We get this nice 2-minute inversion. Boom. I entered right here. It stops at the order block low. And the only problem with this trade was how close the 5-minute was. So the 5-minute was super close. And I took it. Like the rule is that we have to be break even or trimming off profit at the unfilled gaps on the way to our overall draw on liquidity. And for here, I'm not going to trim off profit, but I am going to go break even at the first high time frame gap that I normally would look for a trade out of for lower. So in this case, the break even was super, super close. So boom, there's my entry right there on the counter close. And I get edged, stop gets edged, and we're just chopping around for a while. And then finally, after 12 minutes, we finally touched the 5-minute that was like 10 points away. And so from here, I'm break even. It was a really quick break even, but with the conditions today, I'm not risking trying to trade through a 5-minute. I'm not putting my money on the idea that we're gonna trade all the way through these unfilled gaps if we can't even touch them the entire morning. So, boom. There's my break even, and it was pretty much immediate as soon as it hit. Boom, there's break even. We ran a tiny bit higher into this 5-minute. We end up printing way lower. So overall, price was just insanely heavy this morning. It was so bearish. It was actually crazy. I was leaning lower starting off the morning, but after I seen how we were moving, how we were displacing lower, like if y'all see, it's not just a small crank up to the 1 hour. It's like we are moving. We have moving with purpose, and we're sweeping out lows. We're sweeping out draws and liquidity as we're moving, and we're just displacing through everything. So, I mean, up here even, like, it's displacing. It's obvious displacement. We retrace, and then boom, like 3-minute inverse in 1 candle, 2 candles. It's just boom, displacement. So leaning lower off the morning, and then we get clear bearish displacement to the sell side liquidity, and from there I'm super bearish. It just kind of sucked that it printed all the way through every draw without a single retracement. That was why I didn't end up taking a short today. And that's also why I took the long, is because, I'm willing to bet that at this certain point with all this context, and then if I get this clean V-shape inversion, I would like to bet that we're going to retrace and tap into an unfilled gap in order to send us lower. And if we don't, if it doesn't send us lower, then it's going to go higher. So it's still going to go in my direction. And I so basically is really just willing to put on the risk that, willing to bet that it needs to retrace. And unfortunately, we didn't get that. However, I did get a quick break even off. It was a break even trade. I didn't lose any money. Overall, it was just a really tough day. This whole month so far has been super tough. This is about two break even trades this week and then one dub last Monday. So I'm technically green on the month still, even with this trash price action, which feels absolutely amazing. So ending off the second week of December, still green on the month, break even on the week. And yeah, that was my outlook for today, guys. I really appreciate anybody who stopped in here. Subscribe for more. I will be posting trade recaps every single time I take a trade. I'll be on here. Y'all make sure y'all go follow my TikTok and my Instagram. It's just CJ Snipes. Y'all will find it. I'll probably put it in my bio or the description. And thank you guys. I'll see y'all later.